So what's going on, Facebook? What's going on, everybody? I want to introduce you to Hilario Guerrero. Hilario, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for the invitation, David. Appreciate it.
You got it. So Hilario, you may or may not know this, but you're my very first guest on the podcast, man. I appreciate it.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
So let me tell you guys why I asked Hilario. One, I love his energy. The title of this, Hilario, is why he dropped out of college to go make six figures. So
wow.
You're an example of what I think a lot of people want to get to. And you and I both know that there's a lot more for Hilario to accomplish in this world, right? But when I graduated college, I had my master's degree, my first job out of college. It wasn't $100,000, it wasn't $75,000, it wasn't $50,000, it was $32,000 graduating out of college with a master's degree, $40,000 of debt from student loans. So when I look at you, you're like, man, when I grow up, I want to be like Hilario, man. So that's why I asked you to be on, right?
Appreciate it, David. No, but let me tell you, I know exactly how you felt, because I myself, I mean, obviously you titled it from college dropout to six figures, but I at one point was in the trenches of, taking 22 units at one point, really, thinking about life, and it's like, is this really gonna be worth it? Am I gonna get the best return on my investment of my time? But I'm glad. I don't know if you have mentioned it. No, everybody knows. You decided to become an entrepreneur yourself, and I know it's a matter of time until most people make that decision to better themselves, right?
Yeah, I think for the ambitious individual, it's going to happen eventually, because here's why I made that change. I was at the point at my job where no matter how hard I worked, I was making the same as the laziest person there. And being competitive, I lost my motivation, I lost everything. So I think inevitably, if you're an athlete, if you're hardworking, if you're an overachiever, if you're like a Hilario that's like full of energy, and you get paid under what you're worth, it's like, I got to find someone who pays me well. And that's when you work for yourself, you pay yourself what you're worth, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
So I'm kind of jumping the gun, but let me tell you, Hilario, kind of my intention in this podcast, and we were talking about it a little bit offline. So it's the Ultimate Life Podcast, and here's why I decided to start it, because I myself, I'm 31. I always say I'm 32 because I'm about to turn 32, but I'm 31 years old. I have a 2-year-old son. I have another one being born within the next month, so very soon. But
soccer team in the making.
Oh, I'm the Hispanic thing, man. I'm starting my soccer team, bro. But I'm very much in a journey of figuring out how to live the ultimate life. Because here's what I don't want to use. I don't want to end up saying, hey, I was a successful businessman, but a bad father. I was a great father, but a bad Christian. I was a great Christian, but a bad businessman, right? I don't want to use any of them as an excuse, and I've divided, and what we're going to talk about is this. I've divided up the ultimate life into 6 categories in no specific order. So 1, faith, family, finance, fitness, fun, and friends.
Wow.
I think those are the 6 F's that the ultimate life will squeeze into those. Out of those 6, which do you think that you've kind of grown the most in your journey so far in life? So
far in life, David, oh man, that's a good question. Let me tell you, man. It's obviously not fitness, as you can tell.
You and me both, right? We're working on it. We're not perfect.
Yeah, it's a journey, right? But I would say, David, out of those 6 different categories that you're mentioning, which are, by the way, great way of narrowing down the life as we know it, and the things that we want to maximize in our life. I would say by far the one that I've had the opportunity and the blessing of getting the most out of, or having the most grasp on, it would be business. Because thanks to business, every other aspect of those 6 categories, some in motion right now, right? But every other category has improved thanks to me maximizing business.
Okay. So I want to dive into that. Before we dive into it, I know a little bit about your story. I think your parents are millionaires. You were born in a mansion. right? Your parents have run multiple businesses, right? That's what I remember.
Oh,
right?
absolutely not, absolutely not. And don't even say that because I know my mom has a Facebook. She's probably I'm kidding.
Tell me your story. Tell me your story.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Ciraro Guerrero. I come from humble beginnings. I'm a first generation here in California. I was born and raised outside of the south side of Oxnard in Ventura County. Both my parents are from Jalisco. My dad came here about 25 years ago, 27. And I mean, he didn't speak the language. He didn't know anybody. He hardly had any money to himself. But just like many people that come into the United States, David, my dad came here with the American dream in his heart. So long story short, I come from a one-bedroom apartment. My dad did everything he could to have food and shelter, which I believe is the only thing you need growing up here in the United States to live a life full of blessings, right?
Yep.
If anything, I'm grateful of the beginnings that I had growing up here in Oxnard because thanks to the atmosphere that I grew up in, it made me the person that I am today, right? So I went to school here for the majority of my life in Oxnard. I went to Hathaway Elementary, Blackstock, graduated from Miami High School in 2013, which at that point, the only thing I knew, David, at that point in my life was go to school, get good grades, go to college.
Yeah.
It was the only thing that I had ever heard of growing up, that if you wanted to be a successful person, if you wanted to have a meaningful life, you go to school, you get the good grades, you get the degree, you give it to your parents, you make them proud, and for some odd reason, that's all I thought at that point, right? So sure enough, I ended up going off to UCSB. I pursued a bachelor's in biology, and throughout the course of that, David, I was also a tax professional with H&R Block, and I used to be a server on weekends at this local restaurant called Lazy Dog.
So
go ahead.
You were a full-time student, you worked at Lazy Dog, and then you H&R Block as well.
Yes. So
okay.
there was a point in it was my third year in college. It's like, talk about, there's certain people where the more you have on your plate, the better you feel about yourself, right?
Yep.
That was me. Growing up, all I ever wanted was a lot of my plate because I'm the type of person where if I don't have anything going on, growing up in the neighborhood I grew up, let's just say that when you have time, when you have time to yourself, typically with the surroundings in the neighborhoods that you grow up in, you don't do good things, right?
Right.
You want to get into I was a troublemaker growing up, to say the least. So for me, I was raised in the atmosphere of always wanting to have a lot on my plate and just taking on the challenge. So there was a point where I used to go to work at H&R Block Monday through Fridays as a tax professional, and I would get out of work. Then I would rush down to Lazy Dog Thursdays through Sundays, David, to work one shift there as a server, and then Monday through Wednesdays I was taking my classes in the evening.
Wow.
So talk about like absolutely no days off. And yeah, I mean, long story short, after 3 years of doing that, I was sick and tired. Just like yourself, I worked at a corporate office. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the job. I absolutely love the opportunity to be an 18-year-old tax professional. I mean, at that point, I had nothing but 40, 50-year-olds around me. So that definitely made me mature at a faster rate and think, more into the future, you can say. But soon enough, I realized, hey, I'm getting paid, $15, $16 an hour. The life that I want is definitely not going to be funded by $15, $16, right? I was a server on weekends, and I'm like, man, yes, I can make $200 on tips a night being a server, but that only happens Fridays and Saturdays. That's not going to happen Monday through Thursdays. So that's definitely not going to fund the life that I want long term. I definitely did not see myself being a server forever. So at that point, when I turned 21 years of age, David, the summer before I was going to go back to UCSB, I was introduced to PHP Agency, where I was brought on, just like everybody else. I saw the presentation, thanks to Alfredo Garcia, who was willing to sit down with a 21-year-old that's not married, not making that much money, right? Complete unqualified appointment. He was willing to sit down with me on a Sunday, and he sold me the dream. I'll be honest with you, David. That was the first time in my life, personally, that I knew, or that I can call back, that I had sat down with a six-figure earner who was willing to teach me and give me the same opportunity he was once offered himself.
That's awesome. And now you're in that position, making six figures, kind of giving it back.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so crazy because I remember at that point when I was 21 years old. I mean, keep in mind, David, that summer, I had met all the prerequisites to go back to UCSB, finish my bachelor's, and it's like that was the whole plan. And to finish off my bachelor's, but I made a decision that summer that completely changed my, like, if you could pinpoint a time in my life that you could say like that's when Elaido's life changed, it was that summer of 2016. I made the decision to hold off on going back to UCSB to finish my bachelor's and pursue my career here with PHP Agency and become an insurance agent or an insurance broker now.
Now let me ask you this, because we come from Hispanic families, and I could just imagine a scenario where mom and dad come to this country, they work their butt off to get their kids to college. I don't know. I imagine maybe student loans, maybe right, student loans. And for you to come home one day and tell mom and dad I'm dropping out of college, I imagine that's not an easy conversation. What gave you the courage to do that?
Let me tell you this, David, and I'm thinking back, and it's not even of how much of a tough conversation it was. It was more of how hard-headed I've always been.
Okay.
Where I'm so glad my parents reacted the same way. I'm so glad my parents reacted the way they reacted, because it just fueled me more to want to make sure that this did work. So, but going back to the conversation, when I told my parents, I mean, my mom is the ultimate. I feel like the most typical Latina mom ever known in the United States. I mean, always she's the definition of unconditional love.
Yeah.
She personally told me, Nico, I think you're making the worst decision of your life, but I still want you to know I love you, right? My dad went straight like, don't talk to me. I and not in a bad way, obviously, but it was more of like a disapproval.
I mean, understand, forgive me for interrupting, but for the viewers, understandably so, because again, leaving a country is not like you're moving cities. You're leaving a country, you're leaving your friends, you're leaving your family, the language is different, the job, the career, and you're leaving it for your kids to be able to have a better life. And when you hear your son say, I'm going to leave college, where in your brain college equals success, I can only imagine not only like the confusion, but the anger. Is that fair?
Yeah, not only that, David, and it just so happened that in my family, I was supposed to be the first to graduate the bachelor's. So just to add on to it, I really feel like my parents felt like I kind of backstabbed them, because everything, my whole life growing up, it was like, I'm going to be the example. I'm going to be the one. I'm going to take this family to the next level. And it was like, at that point when I made that decision, I personally feel like my parents felt like I kind of backstabbed them in making that decision, because the way that I approached it, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of this saying, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, right? So when I spoke to them, when I told them, I wasn't asking for counsel, I wasn't asking for permission. It was more of like, this is what I'm gonna do. I just wanna make sure you know, because I'm extremely excited about this new journey that I'm about to go on.
Powerful. So it takes courage. Is that fair to say?
A ton, because let me tell you, and keep in mind, David, there's nobody in my life that I respect more than my dad, right? Yeah. And to have that tough conversation with him, it really took a lot of me to have, even right now, like saying I feel like I'm going back, and I remember how emotional it was. Where that conversation, it was hard, but I knew what I was doing. I don't know if that makes sense. Like the way I analyzed it, the way I saw, keep in mind, David, like I said, that when I sat down with Alfredo Garcia, he was the first ever six-figure earner that I personally had ever met in my life. So for me, I'm an evidence type of person. You show me the evidence, you tell me I can do it, and I see it, and I look at UCSB, don't get me wrong, the bachelor's that I was pursuing was a biology bachelor's. I essentially, David, wanted to become an orthopedic surgeon. I knew no matter what, that was gonna happen. But the way that I played it out in my mind was, if I take a year off, let's say, for whatever reason, this doesn't work out. I know for a fact, in fall of 2017, UCSB is gonna welcome me with open arms and say, come over here. Let me get you some more debt, right?
Right.
But for me, when I was sitting on that desk, I just couldn't live with the thought of, I don't ever want to wake up 20, 30 years from today and think back to my life and say, or ask myself, I wonder how much differently my life could have been if I would have pursued that PhD thing.
You know what? And I think that's such a key, again, in line with the purpose of this podcast is the ultimate life. I think having the, instead of having the fear of, if I start, what if it doesn't work? It's having the fear of, what if it would have worked, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, I've been in business now, I'm going on 6 years. That's at the early stages, what kept me in business. It's like, I know worst case scenario, I could always go back to a job. Like a worst case scenario, right? And on the early years, what kept me in when I was figuring this stuff out, the business where being your own boss, it sounds so sexy, but you got to figure it out, right? Yeah. In the early years, I was like, what if it is gonna work out? And because I'm too mentally weak, like I quit, like no way, I'm stronger than, and I keep going. So I think part of the success is being stubborn. Now let me switch the topic on you, because I think, and it's similar, but it's different. Hilado, you could have easily, and I'm so impressed, so this is why I'm saying this. You could have easily been a statistic. Growing up where you grew up, right? And again, this is by no means anything down about parents. Parents, the fact, all they needed to do is come to America and they've already given you the world, right?
Best opportunity ever.
Their job is done.
Ever. Yeah.
Their job is done. But I'm gonna go on a little rant for a little bit. I get so frustrated, so confused. I actually get like angry and upset when I see parents at 60, 65 years old still working their butt off, and their son is like, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm like so confused, and they're at home, they're watching Netflix. They're like, I get so upset because your parents are 50, 60, 65 years old. You have a job at Jack in the Box. I say that because that was my first job, but you're content with that. You're content with that. And I'm like, how could you be okay with being in that mindset? So let me ask you this. Do you think it was God-given that you just naturally wanted more? Or what would you say to the individual whose parents immigrated here? It's a 21-year-old male who maybe doesn't like college, has a warehouse job, something like that. What would you say to this individual to really be able to like live an ultimate life, live a better life?
I would say it has to do with two key factors, David, two words, gratitude and oh my goodness, I just had it. So it would be gratitude and pride. And I'll tell you why. Okay. Gratitude and pride. The reason why I wanted to do more in my life growing up had nothing to do with me. Like, don't get me wrong. I personally, internally, obviously, we always want to do better. But for me, it was more for my family. So what I'm saying by gratitude is being aware, having that gratitude, being aware that your family sacrificed. Like for me, I grew up hearing from my aunts and my uncles or acquaintances of the family, hearing all the struggles and all the sacrifices that my parents had to make to give me this opportunity. Yep. Right. So me growing up with that, I mean, the only thing that could ever result from those stories or seeing me personally, I used to see my dad work 6 days a week. To this day, my dad still works 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. Right. So to see personally the work ethic and to hear the stories of everything that my family had to go through to get into the United States, I mean, if that doesn't give you a sense of gratitude, I don't know what could. Right.
That's powerful. That's so powerful.
So that's for the gratitude. And the second thing is pride. For me, I have a lot of pride to be part of the family that I come from.
Yeah.
And it matters to me to make sure that my family like keeps progressing over life. I'll tell you one story, David, and I feel a lot of it also has to do with the principles that you're raised in. I remember at a very young age, my dad, when I was really young, my dad told me one thing: Hilario, I only want you to do one thing, and that is to be a better man than me. That's it.
Powerful.
If you can do more than I've done, I will be the proudest person. And to me, like that stuck around me, you know. So for me, growing up, all I want to do is not just be like. Don't get me wrong. I'm probably half the man that my dad is right now.
Yeah.
If I could ever become the man that my dad is, man, I would feel fulfilled in life, right? But to go back on that, it's just like wanting to it's like having pride of where you come from, having pride of the family you represent, and making it a personal, taking it personal to get your family to the next level. I mean, I don't know what else. Like I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment, right? Yeah. My parents slept in the living room. I slept in the 1-bedroom, 2 bunk beds. My brother and I on the top, my sister, my grandma on the bottom. My grandma suffered with diabetes. So for me, I saw what it was like to really, like, don't get me wrong. We never missed a single plate on the table,
right?
But I knew what it was like to live, you know, below means, like, or to live
humbly, modestly.
Exactly, humbly, like living. I know what it's like, and for me, don't get me wrong, we live like that because of our circumstances. But I told myself at a very young age, I don't care how many hours, I don't care what I gotta do. One day I'm gonna have my own room, right? And I told myself, never again will I let my parents sleep on the floor, ever. Like even if it meant that I had to have them, I had to buy something or rent somewhere, and I'm gonna have them sleep on the bedroom. I'm sleeping on the floor because it's like, you know, the saying, today for you, tomorrow for me. Yeah. My parents gave the ultimate sacrifice for me.
Yeah. And I've never met your parents, Hilario, but Mr. and Mrs. Guerrero, if you're listening, good job with your son. Like it's such. I love your answer because. When again, I'm just, let me paint the picture for you. You leave your family to come to a new country to go work 6 days a week, maybe 2 jobs, and you don't even take the bedroom. You give your son the bedroom, and as married couples, you know that there's times for privacy and all that. You got to figure that out. But you give your son the bedroom because you want your son. Like, it gets me emotional thinking about how could you not give your best? How could you not pursue something better? How could, like, if they're paying the price, anytime you pay for something at the store, you walk out with something in your hands. If your parents paid the price, it's so that you could have some, like, it just, you know, shout out to you, shout out to the Guerrero family. There's some good blood in there for working so hard, but so I love that. So now let me kind of switch the topic again on you. So we're talking, you got 10 more minutes for me.
No, it's,
okay, good. So we're talking about business. So you went from college, now you're running a 6-figure business, right? You went from really being stubborn and like family was kind of like, what are you doing, to now I assume they're supportive. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now my mom is like, Mijo, where are we going to next? Like she heard about Hawaii in February. David, I'm not kidding you. The day they announced that the update video came out, my mom just happened that she had visited the office. She's like, Mijo, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, what? We're going to Hawaii next and it's like, keep in mind, this is this is gonna be like her Christmas gift, and she already knows about it. So I'm like, man, I don't even know what I'm gonna gift her next.
Well, let's hope she doesn't watch this live until Christmas, because now right? But that's so awesome, because now that they expect to live a better life, expect better experiences. So freaking awesome, man. I'm gonna enjoy our time out there. When I'm out there with you, we're gonna have our second baby, so he'll be
nice.
2 months old, man. He'll be 2 months old, so it'll be a good time. Awesome. So then, last question that I have for you is this, okay? Here's the person I want you to speak to. I want you to speak to the 22-year-old male or female, just graduated from college. This was me, by the way. Just graduated from college. You're looking for a job, And you start to realize that even if you get that job, it doesn't get you the house you wanted. It doesn't pay off your student loans before 10 years. It's like you start to realize, it doesn't get you that far. So when I graduated, like I said, I had my master's, my first job, I was a foster care social worker. I'm very grateful for the job. It's not coming from a place of not being grateful. I was just frustrated. Working 40 hours a week, making $32,000 a year. And I thought, is this it? Like, did I study this hard to make this, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to that individual who's scared to go into business? What would you recommend for them? Is it for everybody? Is it not? Kind of speak to that.
That's a great question, by the way, David. And I'll start off with this, because let me tell you, keep in mind, I didn't come from sales before PHP, right? I worked at H&R Block, but don't get me wrong. I mean, all I did was just input numbers into the computer and just do small talk with clients. I didn't really have all my skill sets fully developed, right? And I'm answering it this way there because I personally sit with a lot of 23-year-olds, right? I'm 25 myself. I mean, man, my business was ran with many people under the age of 25, and anytime I come across people that tell me, Hilario, I'm scared, or I just don't know, is this the right decision? I always tell them this, and I go based off on like worst case scenario, best case scenario. Okay. Worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, if you do decide to pursue a business or like a side business while you're getting everything taken care of full time, it's the best thing you can do. One, you're gonna network with people, you're gonna level up your associations, you're gonna experience life, you're gonna have life experience, which is something that we don't really get in college.
Yeah.
Right. We don't get actual life experience about networking, sales, negotiations, talking to people. So first of all, I would say worst case scenario, no matter what, if it doesn't work out, like you had mentioned to me earlier, you knew no matter what, you can always go back to the job.
Yeah.
The job is the security. The job is the benefits of security, a stable check and this and that and so on and so forth. When in reality, there's always a cap to how much money you can truly make. And on top of that, everything is run based off on favoritism, nepotism, and seniority. Yeah. Am I right or am I right? Right? 100%. I experienced it myself. On the other hand, when it comes down to business, I love the fact that with capitalism or in business overall, everything is based on who is the hungriest, who is the one innovating. Right, so you're developing different areas of your life or different areas that maybe you have never tapped into. But the one question I ask everybody for that 22-year-old that's tuning in here is when a lot of people when they are afraid of starting something, they ask themselves two questions: can I do this, and does this work? And I want to answer the can I do this question, David, because I remember when I was brand new. Keep in mind, I'm 21 years old. I've never read a self-development book, right? I was never high on I want to develop myself. I want to become, I read a lot of textbooks about, physics, calculus, chemistry, but not about self-development, human nature, psychology, you get what I mean? Yeah. So the one question I always ask everybody is, do you believe sales? Do you believe human nature? Do you believe interaction with people, networking? Do you believe it's a skill set? Is it something you're born with, or is it a skill set? And it's obvious, it's a skill set. Sales is a skill set. Nobody is born knowing how to negotiate. Nobody is born, knowing how to sell things. No, we're not born like that. These are things that you learn. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when I was brand new in the business, I remember hearing certain speakers, hearing certain presentations, hearing certain people within my office, and I'm like, man, these people are so talented. I could never be like them. And keep in mind, I'm talking to my own self, 22-year-old, where it's like I realized it's a skill set. It's not a gift. So any skill set can be learned and can be taught. All you gotta do is find somebody who has that specific skill set that you personally want to get better at and learn from them, because they can teach it to you. And if you can get skill sets down, like I said, sales, negotiations, presentation skills, developing skills, speaking skills, leadership skills, if you can learn those skills, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to excel in business, because the same skills that you will have, the other person that excel in it has. And in business, there's no favoritism, there's no nepotism, there's no seniority, there's no cheating, right? Yeah. Or if you do cheat, keep in mind, eventually you're gonna be raised, because in capitalism, it will catch up.
I love that, man, and I love that you said this. I love that you said find somebody, because I think the fear a lot of times is, if I get into it and if I mess up. Now, when you find somebody, you found Alfredo Garcia. Shout out to the Garcia family, cutest kids in the world, right? When you found Alfredo Garcia, I think you told me this. Wisdom is what? Tell me about that. Like, I think it was you told me about.
So it's yeah. It's one of my favorite quotes. A smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from other people's mistakes.
Powerful. So if I'm a 23-year-old knowing I need some extra income, I'm a little bit scared about getting into business. The key, what I'm understanding, is finding somebody, gaining from their experience to avoid their mistakes, gaining their wisdom, going into it. Is that fair?
Exactly. Avoid all the confusion, stress, anxiety. Find a proven system, find a proven mentor, somebody that is not just talking the talk, but can back it up with data, with business, with numbers, and attach your hip to them. The best thing, like you said, shout out to the Garcias, forever, for the rest of my life, the Garcia. I owe everything to the Garcia family, because they completely changed my life.
Let me ask one more question. This will be the last question. 3 minutes, then we're done. So, okay. You're growing up, you have your dad, which you really, really respect, giving you advice. But you also have the Garcia, which you really respect, giving you advice. How does a brand new person who's kind of trying to figure it out, like who should I pay attention to? And if this sounds familiar, it's the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? So what gave you the confidence to trusting in somebody? Because back then you didn't know him, you just kind of believed what he said.
True.
What gives you the confidence to believe this man, that you like his lifestyle that he's talking about, versus this man, your dad, which you always grew up with? What gave you the confidence to listen to here instead of here?
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great question, David. Because for me, I can tell you, I've been asked that question a lot of times. People think like, oh, do you see Alfredo like your dad? Is he like your father figure? I'm like, no, I have an actual father, and he's been a great example, and I owe everything to him, right? Yeah. I'm the man that I am today because of him. But it's like there's no comparison, right? Because Alfredo is my business mentor. Keep in mind, I still get a life advice from Alfredo, but my dad, growing up, even to this day, my dad is a wise man, and he's a life mentor. So there's a difference between life and business, right? When it comes down to anything having to do with my business, right? It's like it wouldn't make sense for it's like, I'll give you this example, and I feel like a lot of people they will be able to relate to this. If I'm sick, right? Or let's say I need a surgery. Yeah. And I have my actual doctor who went to school, has his doctorate and specializes in this. I'm not gonna go to my dad to ask him what I need to do in my surgery, right? Or if I should, right? I'm gonna ask my doctor. Why? Because my doctor specializes in that. Same thing applied to business. When it came down to any business problems, any business decisions, any drastic decisions that I had to do that had relations to the business, obviously I'm gonna go with Alfredo, because he is my proven mentor, my blueprint that I could base all my decisions on. Keep in mind, when I met Alfredo, he was only making roughly $100,000 a year, right? Yeah. Now he's a $250,000 earner.
Yeah.
Soon to become, he's soon gonna become a $500,000 earner. So it's kind of crazy how things work, because as he developed me as a leader, he himself developed, improved, and he's getting bigger and better into more places. And I'm grateful of that, because it's like I feel like we've gone on a journey together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So good. That's so good.
And,
well, Hilario, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna wrap up with this so just to answer your question, black and white. Obviously, when it comes down to the mentor that you find, you make sure that you don't waste your mentor's time and ask them questions to then later go to somebody else and then they tell you the complete up. No. If you're gonna ask a question to your mentor, you're gonna ask them for a reason, because you're ready to implement at the speed of instruction, right? It's not like for me, and I'll wrap up with this, David. The one thing that maybe could have become a weakness back then, David, was that I truly trusted. And it wasn't just because of the way that Alfredo spoke to me. It was based on the things that I saw, even when nobody thought I was looking, right? I saw him making the phone calls. I saw him doing the appointments. I saw him being in the trenches with me. So the moment that he proved himself of being able to run a business and being willing to guide me through this journey, never again did I doubt any direction that he gave me. I never doubted it again. And sometimes the reason why a lot of people fail in business is because you have so many heads speaking to you. You have so many voices speaking to you. And because you couldn't listen to the right person, you ended up falling off. Because you listened to the wrong people, you didn't get the results you wanted to get. All of a sudden, you blame the system, or you blame the one mentor that wanted the best for you, and you gave up.
So good, man. So good. Guys, if you guys haven't figured it out by now, Hilario is a bona fide stud, a qualified stud, right? So if any of you guys are out in the Ventura County area, Oxnard area, absolutely reach out to him. What's your handle, or where can people find you once they watch this video?
Yes, just like my name, Hilario Guerrero. Simple.
Okay. Look him up. I'll also tag him in the Facebook video. But Hilario, I'm super impressed with who you are, who you're becoming, newly engaged man. Very excited to see it. And a year from now, man, we'll do this again, and I'll see the evolution of kind of where you've gone. So I appreciate your time, and we'll absolutely stay connected, man. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation, David. Appreciate it.
All right, you got it, man. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Goodbye.